Hey, welcome back. What I have in front of me is this Riden RD6018, and this was kindly sent over by banggood.com. You can look at the link in the description to get your own. I've read a lot of good stuff about these guys, and so when Banggood offered to send me one, I said, oh, hell yes. So, input voltage, 6 to 70 volts. This is a buck converter, so it can convert down voltage. Output voltage 0 to 60 volts, output power up to 1,000 watts. Pretty impressive, 0 to 18 amps. So I do not have a 70 volt power supply here, but I do have a 24 volt power supply, so keep that in mind. This first look, it's not quite a review. Can't do a review when you're just opening a box, unlike some other YouTube channels, but this first look here, we're going to give it its first few tests on a 24 volt, not sure how many amps, I'll have to let you know. I think it's a 400 watt power supply. But this stuff has been fairly well reviewed by quite a few people. I think this one is the Wi-Fi version, we'll have to see. But these things are good. You don't have to wait for my review to pick one up. They are fairly well reviewed. So, DC power supply, very nice. To check instruction before using. Yeah, we're not going to check instruction before using. No offense, but we got this. And here it is. Wow, okay. Well, first and foremost, this is hefty. This thing is, it's got some gravity. Wow, okay. Now, the eventual plan for this is that I wanted something kind of flat-ish, so when I make my videos, you guys can have it on the screen here. I have another power supply from another company. Ooh, is this a fuse? Ooh, fancy. I have another power supply from another company that I will be reviewing shortly. Yes, it is the Wi-Fi. It's got an ESP32 on it, or ESP12F. But that power supply doesn't fit well in videos. Now, there's always room for a power supply in my workspace. So the workspace is getting a small expansion, but that's a story for another day. You'll probably have to be a Patreon to hear about it first. Now, it looks like this needs a coin cell battery down here, but just looking at this thing is a monster. That is, like, honestly, the heft is pretty substantial. Let's see if I can give you an idea here. Power. Tare, can you see the grammage there? If I face it towards the light. Okay, 0 grams. Just throw this on here. It's a pound. It's nearly a pound worth of, so 405 grams, nearly a pound worth of weight. It's got a encoder here. Pretty smooth, on-off button. Ooh, the buttons are a little spongy. They remind me of those really cheap old telephones. It's got a OLED display, which will be interesting. Can you see me in there? No, you cannot. Perfect. Okay, it's got these little buttons here too. It's got USB functionality, and I'm guessing this ESP will go into here, but I need to check for if I have a coin cell, because it does not look like it came with a coin cell. Very interesting. That fuse seems to go in here. There's one soldered, but there's another one beside. Interesting. Well, anyways, let's get set up. I have to bring my power supply back from wherever the hell it is right now, and we'll plug this thing in and we'll get a couple first impressions. I ended up looking at the instructions, mostly because I couldn't figure out what kind of coin cell went in there, and it's a CR1220, which I do not have any. And then I put in the Wi-Fi module, the ESP12F, and I regret that because I don't have a coin cell in here. And this little, I don't know if you can see that little tab there, closes down on top, very tight fit, so it's going to be finicky to get it out again. I also had to look at the instructions because there are 4 input pins here. I assumed that these 2 on this side were positive and parallel, and these 2 on the other side were negative and parallel. I assumed correctly, but I could have easily not been correct with that. So this thing does connect with this fairly dinky connector. So it's this guy here. It's used on some 3D printers and stuff, but I find that it doesn't do very much to do strain relief. Also, my power supply is quite far. My 24 volt power supply, it's 24 volt, 15 amps, I think. It's quite far away, and I only had 14 gauge wires, so I ran 4 wires for this. It should be plenty to saturate this power supply, not to saturate this thing here. But yeah, those things are in parallel, so I can plug this in. I can also plug in the power supply itself. Nothing exploded, so everything should be fine. Plug this guy in. Polarity is correct. Last check. Yep. Oh boy, that's a spark and a half. Maybe I'll shut down the power supply, plug this in, and then plug the rest in. Yeah, so this thing is quite high current. Also, they say that this thermistor bulb here needs to be plugged in. So I'll plug this in. The fan starts when it turns up to 80 degrees C. God, I hope I didn't ruin this already. Okay, so this guy here, and that should be good. I'm going to flip this around. Now you're going to see it's going to rest on the wires. I'm not a fan of that. I have to adjust the focus here. And adjust the brightness. I don't know what happened there, but it was very dark. Anyways, let's plug in the power supply. Okay, so immediately it turns on. And there we go. That's actually a quick boot up, which is very nice. Let's take a tour around here. So we've got the OLED display. There's a whole lot of features, so I can't go over them right now. It's impossible. But we've got numerical buttons, so you can actually dial in what you want to dial in. You don't have to turn the knob if you don't want to. There's the on-off for the output. And then you've got the current set. Oh boy, that's loud. So current set, you see the little highlighted on the 0 there, and you can turn it this way, or I think you can hit it there side to side, so we can set the max current in increments of wherever this is set. So let's put 1 amp max, and then you can go V set. It's very nice that you can jump right over. You don't have to wait for the thing to settle down. So let's go 10 volts, 1 amp. There's your input power supply, 25.43. That's probably going to drop because of the long run of my cables once we get going. Then you got the over voltage protection, the over current protection. Those are set there. So we go enter. Enter leaves this menu. That's pretty nice. And then this should turn on the output. There we go. There's your output. 10 volts, no amps. Turn that off. It bleeds down fairly quickly. Very nice. I've got here some load resistors. So these are 50 watt, 3 ohm, but they're in parallel. So they're going to be 1.5 ohms for the bunch. I also have a silicone mat protector here. Because my cutting mat tends to warp on heat, so that's going to be good not to warp these. So let's see, we're still set at 10 volts 1 amp. Let's see what happens when we turn it on. We got 0.99 amps, 1.51 volts, 1.5 watts. So yeah, we're nowhere near warming these things up. But here's the interesting part. We can start bringing the current up now. So set, going to turn this, I'm going to crank the current up 2 amps. Oh, that responds quickly. 3, 4, we're at 25 watts. 5, 6, 7. the input voltage is still holding. We're at 10 volts now, and we're maxed out on our current. I'm going to drop the current again. This is, you know, it's very nice. It responds very quickly. I'm going to have to check to see if I can set the clicker to not be on, because that's kind of annoying, but that's fine. Can you move up and down like this? No, up and down changes the display here. So the current, watt hours, there's a battery, and it tells you it's in constant current right now. Very interesting. This green terminal here, that is a battery charging terminal. So it will, you can set your voltage and current like you usually would, but what happens is when you hit, what is it? Something like 1/10 of your input voltage or your input current, it'll stop the charge altogether. That's pretty good. They say this is not a perfect solution. They say not to use it permanently, use the original charger, but it's there, which is interesting. Okay, so let's set the voltage now. I'm gonna set it to, I don't know, 17 volts. I have 25 volts in, so it should be okay. And let's set the current. Start ramping up the current here. 2 amps, 3 amps, 4 amps, 5 amps, 6 amps, 7 amps. You know what? This is actually very nice. The knob is very nice. The detents work perfectly. It's pretty good. So it's 75 watts now. It should be getting warm. It is. 8 amps. 9 amps. Our input voltage dropped 10 milliamps. It's not too bad. Wires are cool. I hear the fan ramp up on my power supply. 11 amps. Starting to hear a little bit of coil whine from here, and a little bit from my power supply too. And we're at almost 200 watts here. 17 volts. We're in constant voltage. I can feel a ridiculous amount of heat coming out of these things, because obviously it's 200 watts. I'm going to turn it down. Whew, that smells like burning. That's probably because these resistors are burning hot. That's pretty good. That's a pretty good run. I'm not sure how much more I can push this with this power supply. I have been looking into a 60 volt power supply since I started this video, but they are quite expensive. So a 60 volt 18 amp type thing is going to cost me like $300. So I mean the cost of this is really in the front end, right? It's like $100 US, something like that for this thing, because it has a very good front end, but you still need the switching power supply to go with it. So yeah, there's definitely a gotcha, but my god, this does seem like a really cool unit for the price. So let's turn off the output now. I'm going to take this resistor, and I don't know where I'm going to put it, but not immediately here. That's for sure, because you can't really pull 200 watts in a 100 watt system, because these are 50 watt resistors a piece. Maybe I'll just prop it up here on a big chunk of silicone, because yeah, they are super hot. Now let's see if we can set the voltage and the current simply by typing. So let's go voltage set, and I want, let's say, 5 volts. So 500, enter. No, cannot do that. So you have to go voltage set 5.00, enter. But that still works pretty good. It's better than cranking a knob. So let's say current, let's say I want 1.33 amps. So I set 1.33, enter. Yep, that's a good interface. I like that. You can actually save some settings as well. See the memory? That's quite interesting. Let's see if there's a menu, because I see Shift 0 should give us menu. There we go. Take OK, take out, boot, POW. So I don't know what take OK and take out means, but boot POW must mean that when you first plug it in, it doesn't turn on, or that the output is on or off. Buzzer I can change. Let's see, how do I work this? Click. Nope. Click Shift menu. This is not a touch screen, so it's not like that. So let's see. Oh, interesting. Ooh, there's graphing. Okay, that's interesting. We'll do that in a second here. There's the memory settings. That's awesome. Information. So what if I go enter here? There we go. Now we can modify these things. Okay, so let's go down. Buzzer. Ah, perfect. It's silent. Ooh, backlight. I like a very bright backlight. Oh, 5 is max. Okay. So 5 is max. That's okay. Now, how do I leave this? I haven't looked at the instructions for this stuff yet. So this is all enter. Max power. Maybe I leave menu. No. Oh. Click that and enter. No. The click seems to take me out of it. Maybe I just wait and maybe it just leaves the menu by itself. No, maybe not. These are memory presets, I see. On, off? No, that's interesting. Even if you're in the menu, it switches on and off the power. That's pretty cool. Okay. How do we exit the menu? That's a really good question. So, like, enter will let me choose. I'll put the... I definitely want to play with this, so go enter here. Okay, I'm out of that. Oh, you just press the center. Okay. Now, have my resistors cooled? Well, sort of. They're not cool, but they have cooled a bit. I'm going to put them in here, like so. Okay, and I got 5 volts, 1.33. Turn on, and there we go. We've got some graphing going on. Can I still set the current? Yes, I can. Let's go 5.00, enter. There it goes. Output 5 amps. Very nice. Is there a way to change the scale? There is. Look at that. Not sure if you're quite seeing that as well as you should. I definitely see it. So yeah, so a brighter screen would be nice, but I am working under extremely bright lights here, and to my eyes, I can see it. Look at that, you can scale it. So you've got, in purple, you've got wattage, in green, you've got voltage, and in blue here, you have current. Well, that's pretty cool. And what happens if I turn off? Look at that, all graphs to 0. Well, that's pretty cool. I like this thing. Some of you might remember how precise this Kaiweets meter is, and if you don't know what I'm talking about, check out the link in the description or up on the card there, and it'll bring you to the accuracy test I did with this. So, let's see how accurate this thing is. DC volts, got 5 volts, 5 amps, turn it on. This says 4.99, and this says 5.007. That's incredible. So the voltage set is at 5 volts, and this seems to be giving us 5 volts nearly exactly. That's impressive. Let's check some more voltages. Let's set the maximum current. You know what? We'll leave it at 5. Let's put the 12 volts in, .00, enter. Okay, so 7.56 is where it limited us because of the fact that we're over current. And so it says 7.56 here, 7.58 here. So again, pretty darn accurate. If we go into the current set and go 10 amps, now we've got 11.99 and 12.01. This thing is quite precise. Let's go voltage set. Let's go like 0.5 volts. Okay, shows 0.5 here, but we are getting nothing here. We might need to go scale down a little bit. Oh, that's because my probe came out. Well, that would explain everything, wouldn't it? A little bit difficult to do this at a weird angle. There we go. So we've got 0.5 volts requested. You know what, I'll just try to pinch it like this. We've got 0.5 volts requested, and we've got 0.503. This thing is a lot more accurate than I expected. That's pretty incredible. Let's give it 5 volts, 5 amps again, and we'll check the current here. So we're going to pull one of these sides out. Oh, wow, that's hot. You know what? I'm going to let these resistors cool a little bit, then I'll bring you back. It's cooled down a little bit. So I've got this set up 5.55 volts, 5 amps on the setup. We're going to check here. I got my probe. I'm just going to poke right here, and we'll see how much current we get. Oh, it's not evident to be able to position this properly. See if I can poke it into the hole here. There we go. Alright, so got 3.4 amps showing here and 3.401 showing here. Let's bring the voltage up. So VSET 10.00, enter. I really love this just pressing the dial in. That's great. Alright, so this could make a little spark here. Got to be careful. We have a 5 amp limit though. Okay, here it goes. Okay, so we're 8.14 volts, but we've got 5 amps and we've got 4.997. We are so close to the precise 5 amps. This is incredible. All right, let's go up in voltage. We're going to go 15 volts. Enter, and we're going to do more current. I set 8 amps. Enter, and see what we get here. Ready? We got 8.00 here, 7.99 here. So this thing is absolutely doing its job. That's incredible. So I think that's it for today's quick look at the Riden RD6018 DC power supply, this one with the Wi-Fi module. I'll have to play with a lot of the features a lot more before I can give you a complete review of this, but the initial look looks awesome. So if you're on the fence about this thing, I wouldn't hesitate to buy it. Banggood has them in stock. If you go into the link in the description, that's an affiliate link. You won't pay extra, but you will support the channel. Thanks for watching.